never good to play your worst game of the year, your last game. That was everything that we don't believe in, which is peaking at the end of the season. But an excited new team was born. Actually, it was on Martin Luther King Day. It was the birth of the new team. We had our first team meeting for this year's team. We still have a couple people that'll be added on within the roster, but also within the staff. But we had a majority of our incoming freshmen enrolled early, so they're already on campus starting to work out. I thought we have just about all of our transfer portal guys in at this point, getting ready to go through off-season workouts. So that's really exciting for us. I think, this team, every team has a 1-year shelf life. And, that this team will be together for. It's a very different team than last year's team, but every year that's going to happen with all the new faces and that come in from 1 year to the next. I think one of the big pluses we have with this year's roster, or not just this year's roster, this year's team, is the foundation, a little bit of standards and understanding of what the expectations are within the program for the players that are coming back. Because we're able to keep a lot of our great players. Decided to stick it out, stay with us, not leave through the transfer portal. So, I think this time last year, everybody was a new face. You had new coaches, a lot of new players. I think, what do we have, like two returning starters on the entire team. I think I don't know what our numbers would be, but it'd be way above then. When you put the depth chart together, there's a lot of faces that have played football and played in that position for us across the board. You go out to workouts, we kind of, when you get through workouts and get in the off-season conditioning, it's not new. It's new for a lot of guys, but not new for the older veteran guys. So the ability and leadership and where we're at, we're way ahead of where we would be last year with getting into the off-season. This time of year, it's very much about development of, that physical growth and development, a lot of weight room, agility, training, getting bigger, faster, stronger, a little bit of football skill work this time of year. We'll get into a little bit more football in the beginning of March with a couple of OTAs to get on the field with the guys, and then we'll get out with spring ball starting at the end of the March and going all through April with this year's team to build everything up. But I don't know. Would you guys rather ask questions, or how do you want me to go forward with things of where we're at? Or am I going to just ramble on about things, or I can ramble I could ramble. You know me. I could ramble for 45 minutes, and you'll be like, okay, I only need 15 seconds of that. So.
You say, guys coming back, they know how you do things. Is that going to give you a leg up, as many new guys you have in spring and what you can do now as compared to last year?
Absolutely. I think just the acceleration, because, everything, you go out, we did our agility kind of walkthrough, like how our competitive agility, some of that stuff is going to work. There's new guys that are looking, but, the old guys stepping up, leading the way. Hey, this is how this works. This is how we do it. Not just the standards and expectations of how to perform, but even just understanding what the workout's about, what different drills that we're doing. So I think, when you look at that part of it, I talked to Tanner in the weight room, and he'll be like, we're just so far ahead of where we were last year. Our returning players are in such better shape than what we took over. Our new guys are walking into a program where, they can follow the leader. Even if they are leaders on the team, they can look at other guys and what's expected to be done and how we're doing things, and not just everybody looking around the room for the first time doing it.
The NFL is obviously going through cycles now still, but do you expect any changes more in the staff, or you think you're kind of set?
No, I think we're pretty set. We could, there could be another, adding another position or two off the kind of our analysts, recruiting analysts, some of that department. But as far as our position coaches, I think we're pretty set right now.
Did you have an emphasis of what to fix this year, sort of? Defensively, issues throughout the season, and do you feel like if you're able to emphasize that, were you able to?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot more of better understanding of where our players are and where we're at. You look, we like you said, last time I saw we finished at the bowl game. We kind of peaked. I mean, we played a great defensive game at the bowl game and just decided to play our worst offensive game of the year. I think with some stability on the staff coming back at this point, I think that's certainly going to help. And I think with our ability, this time last year, we're kind of learning about all of our players. We didn't know about anybody. I think there's a lot of new faces we got to learn about of what they can do, but I think we have a great foundation of guys coming back. You look defensively, there's a chance. I mean, the 4 starters on the D-line all played last year. You got 2 backers that you could put in the game that played last year. You can have in secondary 4 or 5 of the, 4 probably secondary guys that played last year. And so, when you're looking at that, whether they're starters or not, to me, I don't get always caught up in starters of who plays the first play of the game. It's who plays and rotates. I think on that side of the ball, there's a pretty good foundation of where we're at, what our guys can do, and knowing the system and knowing what to expect. On the offensive side of the ball, I have a couple starters back on the O-line, a couple new faces. We'll have tight ends that have been in the system. We'll have a lot of new faces out at receiver and obviously quarterback with Alex missing most of last season, but knowing the system. Coming back at the quarterback spot, Jackson going to learn it, but as a veteran guy that's played a lot of football. Our whole running back room pretty much returns. So when you have those pieces back, you can accelerate your football, especially in the spring, because the guys already know it. It's not the first time they've ever heard a play call. There's new guys having to catch up, but there's old guys setting the pace.
Any newcomers you want to point out that you're most excited to see?
Well, I mean, I'm excited to see all of them. I mean, that's the you have so many different new faces, and the one thing, one of the tricky ones in today's world, I love everybody talks about football calendars, right? Like I said, we had our kickoff meeting on Martin Luther King Day, and then I'm like, hey, great to have everybody here. I'm fired up. I'm excited. Then I'm out on the road recruiting for the next 2 weeks. I'm gone. So we just got in this week to get back around the guys. So I haven't even been to any of the, this week we just started getting to the workouts to see the guys move around. I'm so much more concerned about the attitude of where we're at, is the attitude and the work ethic where it needs to be for our growth and development. And, and talking to Tanner, because he kind of, this is his in season, right? The strength and conditioning, this is the in season. He's kind of the head coach right now. And he's like, our attitude is we're way above where we were last year, which is fantastic for the team, the mindset, the leadership of the guys. Like if you look at this sheet, obviously last year we had a lot, right? Is that it? All right. I mean, the yellows are all the noob guys, all right? And the whites are all the old guys. And I think last year, heck, it was 100% yellow and new, even because there were a couple guys that came back, but they didn't know any of the coaches or how we did things. So, now you're looking at about 50-50. Maybe a little bit more white than yellow, which 60-40, which is pretty darn good. And I think it allows you to move a little bit faster.
Coach over here. Just a quick question. By my account, there's 3 newcomers from Bishop Gorman on the spring roster. Just how important is local recruiting and keeping the local talent home?
Well, I think it's huge. I think, one of the things, and I think as that we build this program, I'm trying to think who's not here. Zach Scott from Coronado coming in. There'll be a couple more. Got to rack my brain where everybody's from and traveling around. But the emphasis of recruiting in the city of Las Vegas, I think we spent some time in recruiting and looking at it. Back, you look at a 2014 Mississippi State team, right, which was the number 1 team in the country. But that team, you put a dot in Starkville, drew like a 5-hour radius around that. And I want to say probably 85% of the players on that roster within that 5-hour radius. We did a study looking things through, and recruiting's gone a lot more national. And whether for whatever the purpose is, whether it be the access to players through the amount of film that's out there, you don't have to walk into every high school. The transfer portal where kids, it's a lot more comfortable. Heck, I can go far away to go to school. If I don't like it, I'll just transfer right back home. That didn't exist back 10, 15 years ago. But if you look at a roster, I went back and I said, let's look in the state of Mississippi. And I looked this year. Kids are growing all over the country. You went back and we looked 15 years ago. The most kids in the state went to Mississippi State or Ole Miss. It was like one, boom, 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 battles all the way down the board. But what we can't forget is how important that 5-hour radius is for us. You know what I mean? And really critical, the guys at home. I think how we've built the program, whether, not the facilities that we have, the support of the city, you look at the attendance to home games, the fact that we're winning makes it a much more attractive to local kids to want to stay home and say, hey, I can go play big-time football, and I don't have to get on a plane to go do that. I can do it right here. I think if you do look, a lot of our recruiting and roster, we have guys from all over the country. That's kind of the deal, but a lot of our focus will continue to be a lot within that 5-hour radius of here in California and Arizona and Utah and, even the Pacific Northwest. You don't want people to have to fly over your school to go somewhere else. Might as well just come here.
Coach, hi, I have two for you. The first is just how do you kind of manage the expectations that might be set upon you and this team after setting such a high bar last year? The easy one for me is the expectations for me are higher. I think there was disappointment with last year's team, which is, that not finishing the way we wanted to finish, not finishing with a championship. A 10-win season is great, but I think one of the things at UNLV, maybe that's different now, is that standard of expectation where a 10-win season now kind of we're hoping is more the norm. We've won 30 games over the last 3 years. So that puts it of handling the expectations. The expectations for us are to at the end of the year to win the Mountain West Championship. That's what we can control. And we fell, one game short of it last year. I think there's a drive to finish that step this year in the locker room. But that we embrace the expectations. I have those expectations, and like I said, I don't want to downplay the success and what we did. I thought we did a really good job. The coaches, the players did an amazing job. Winning 10 games is not something to take lightly. But our expectations were higher last year and will continue to be higher again this year. So hopefully everybody embraces those in the community, the city, the university, our alumni, and they support us in that way that their expectations, are that high. They're showing up, creating home field advantage at games, supporting the program and everybody, wearing UNLV gear, that they have that pride and that expectation the same way we do, that standard's been risen. And then my second one was just, what are some of the intangibles that you see that Jackson Arnold possesses as well as Orgy that make them leaders of this team?
One of the things that I talked to them, they're both a little bit older guys, which really helps in that veteran experience. They understand they have to lead in their way. They don't have to come in and be a leader, the type of leader they're not. I think Alex being around this team is, if you go in the locker room and they said, hey, send out the leader, I bet everybody on this entire team is going to send Alex Orgy out. Just with his personality, his leadership, what he brings, his work ethic, his demeanor, how he sets a standard and holds people to it. And if you know him, and he's not a huge rah-rah guy. That's not him. Jackson, the same way, is, you go in and it's not, he's not going to be a cheerleader. He's not going to be a turn and hype everybody up. But, the key is, are they setting the standard and holding people to that standard? And you don't have to be a yeller screamer. I think both guys with the experience understand that. They know what their strengths are as leaders, and they're going to walk into a room
and hold you accountable to what we're doing, hold you accountable to the standard, and make sure our performance is at the level it needs to be done. And I think that's one of the things that they bring to the table is their leadership. There's nothing going to be fake in what they do because the maturity, they're veteran guys that have been through it. They know how to lead. They know their best way to lead, and they're going to go follow their strengths through leadership.
You produced the Mountain West Conference Offensive Player of the Year a year ago.
Yeah.
With Calandria. Can you be better at quarterback this season?
Hopefully. We're always trying to get better. We'll be different. That's for sure. And one of the things that we did last year, you're always playing to the strengths of your players. And I get on coach that, we have a lot of young coaches here. And, when we talk about, like, excited to see in everybody, and are we ahead of where we are last year? We're ahead because we know what a lot of guys can do. The quarterback position's one. I got to make sure I'm putting those guys in a position to succeed with. I had Alex through spring, and then he got hurt early in summer and hurt early in the season. So I have a good idea. Jackson, I'm going to learn about. I can watch the film and spend time and talk to him. But until you're out there and it's live and we're going, you got to see how he reacts to it. And we even did last year. Saw us kind of tweak around the strengths of the players last year, and it starts a lot with the quarterback position. I got to see what these guys do well, and are we putting guys in position to succeed? The great thing, and I have a great feel on the running back room. What I need to do with those guys all coming back. But it's at each position around the team that we got to find, are we putting them in a position to be better? And hopefully we're better at the quarterback position this year than we were last year.
What was the hardest position in the portal with funding to try to build up?
I always think the hardest position always to find it anywhere is defensive line, right? There's only you look at some of the guys I've had through the years, of a bunch of all-pro. From Fletcher Cox to Jervon Dexter at Florida. Chris Jones is the highest-paid guy, I think, in the NFL, right? Defensive player in the NFL right now. Jeffrey Simmons, Preston Smith. I'll just keep going on that, the group. But it's hard to find like 6'3" to 6'5", 300-pound athletes. There's only so many of them walking around the face of the earth. If you see one, grab one, and then, not just you got to find them. They got to like football, right? You go to some basketball games, and I'll see some guys, and I'll be like, you're definitely playing the wrong sport. But, you're 6'4", 245, 250 power forward. Come rush the passer, man. But that's always a time when both lines of scrimmage are always O-line, D-line. I think is always one of the it's the foundation. If you want to be successful, you got to be great at the line of scrimmage. At any level of football, you're going to be great at the line of scrimmage. And so I think that's a big priority for us. We got to do a great job. I thought we did a great job with our incoming high school offensive line, and in the transfer portal on the offensive line, and the same with the defensive line. You really want to build those strengths up front, and is always the biggest challenge, because I think that's the fewest number of human beings walking the face of the earth that have that ability.
On the O-line, it looked like you got a mix of some dudes who had some pretty good experience, and then some guys who haven't played yet, but they're gigantic. So what's the competition going to be like in the O-line room, to the point where Boyd and Thomas actually have to fight for their spots at tackle?
Well, let's hope. Well, Austin, we might. The great thing Austin brings is position flexibility, and Will actually does too. He's played some guard during his career. That those guys bring some position flexibility in there to go do it, and you kind of look at that. I like guys that have position flexibility. We'd like to, in a dream world, you like to have 10 and be too deep on the offensive line across the board. In a reality world, if you feel great about 8, you feel like you have a good shot at the season. So I think when you watch us practice this spring, we'll move some pieces around different spots. I always want guys, a lot of ways, if you can, you want to play either left tackle and right tackle, where I got to learn one position but 2 techniques, or right tackle, right guard, where I earn 1 technique and 2 positions. But to have flexibility, we got to find 5 centers. You better find, you're going to get yourself in trouble, find people that can't snap the ball. So you better have a bunch of people that can snap the ball at the center position that we can get in there in case of emergency. So I think we'll be moving some pieces around to try to find as many guys as we can that are ready to go play. And I think if you know me, I mean, everybody's going to compete. There's not one spot on this team that's locked in. Also, I think you see that we like to rotate guys. I mean, if we have some depth and I'm able to rotate, I build experience and I keep guys healthy throughout the year. And sometimes there's like people, you guys, I'm sure, and like people like, why do you do that? But until all of a sudden someone goes down and I'm putting someone out there in a game, if I put somebody in the fourth quarter of a huge game that has never played a snap in their career, am I doing them a disservice and the team a disservice where all of a sudden that guy maybe he had 15 reps earlier in the game. He's kind of not just that he has experience, he's into the flow of the actual game that you're in. And, you look at the receiver position where we have so many guys that graduated that like off last year's team. The fact that we rolled some guys through, we do have, there's some experience coming back. Not huge numbers, but there's guys that have played in games. So I think that's the reason that we do it, and we want to continue to build that up front. And it really across the board at every position.
So Paul Gunther's going to stay around as DC, and are you going to tweak things, or what are you looking at for the defense?
Yeah, he's already, you got to think he got hired in mid-February. Like he's not even on his 1-year anniversary being on the staff yet. You know what I mean? And so he took over. Got here kind of mid to late February, I think, last year, and kind of all of a sudden midway through spring ball, he's kind of learning this is what the defense we want to run, and then it's, hey, now you're in charge of it all. So I think we're going to be way ahead of that with his comfort level as well of the college game, of what goes on. You go watch some of the intricacies of the college game that are different than the program. There's a lot of similarities, but there are differences. When you get into all the unbalanced formations, the quarterback run game, option football, the ability of the RPOs with guys being able to be way down the field. I think his comfort level on that stuff will be different within our preparation going into the season than we were last year. We're kind of learning it after spring. We had to install a new defense after spring ball. We're kind of way behind.
What sold you on bringing Mike Shear back to UNLV?
Well, I think Mike, I'm really excited to have him back. I think when I got hired, he was still in the building. And I got to talk to some of the guys, and I don't know, haven't been around a long time. You kind of, when you talk to guys, you say, that guy's going to get it. He's going to be a really successful coach. Kind of had that feeling with Mike. I looked. I remember going to him like, hey, any chance you want to stay? And but obviously knowing the situation, an opportunity for him to go move on in the comfort level, not really knowing me. But he was a guy I could sense just in the short period of time I spent with him, watching how the team played the year before. I'm like, this guy's going to be a big-time coach in his career. And, he's still a young coach, up and coming and developing as a young coach. So, when they got the call that he'd be interested in coming back, that took about 30 seconds. I'm like, hey, come meet some of the coaches and say hello to people. But, I'm like, if we could get you back, we'd love to have you back here.
Just one more follow-up.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. Shire moved on, special teams coach. So what are you going to do at special teams coach?
I'm going to do a lot of the special teams, which I've done in the past. I'm going to kind of I'll run the special teams. And Adam did a great job for us. Fumble. Adam did a great job for us and moved on to Florida State. But I think in year one, we had a lot of new faces on the coaching staff. And so I wanted to kind of get a feel where everybody was. I wanted to open myself up as much as possible to fill in where I was needed. I think I'm much more comfortable. We're in really year two, the whole program, everybody's in a much more comfortable position, which opens me up to be more involved in specific areas. And one of the ones I've always done a lot with is special teams. So Mitch Singler is going to work and be a special teams. He and I will do the special teams together.
How does that work on game day?
It's, you see me. It'd be fun. I'll probably call it. I'll see. I'll get some input, a lot of input from Mitch to do it, and I'll call it on game day. I mean, Corey calls the plays on offense, so Paul calls the plays on defense. So maybe they'll probably think it'll be a great day. I'll be less of a distraction because I have something else to do. I can be like, I'm not a distraction to them on game day. They can, I'll be like, hey, they'll be like, don't you got to go coach special teams? Get off the headsets. Yeah, to go help those guys out. So. But it'll be fun to get back to doing it.
Off topic from UNLV a little bit, but I'd like to get your thoughts on Fernando Mendoza. You've coached a lot of quarterbacks and seen a lot make the transition from a great college game to the pros.
I think I haven't studied him. You know what I mean? I haven't studied him to see. Obviously, he's a winner, tough guy, and watching him what they did last year, I think a lot of times you got to also look at, though, the NFL is a more balanced league, right? Everybody's kind of, in theory, should have the same. You're not walking in where you have much better players than the other team, in theory, right? It's designed for equality. He's coming off an extremely talented football team, last year and was very successful. I always think this with young quarterbacks in the NFL. You got to make sure you build everything the right way if you're going to take a young quarterback in that way. What pieces are you surrounding him with? What are you asking him to do? What are his strengths, weaknesses? You got to, I'm sure, for everybody in Vegas, they're going to, whoever, the Raiders hire, I don't know who they've even hired, but whoever they hire, they're going to go figure out, hopefully they figure out his strengths and weaknesses of what he does well and make sure they're going to surround him with the pieces that he can grow and develop, because to expect a rookie quarterback to come in, it'd be like a freshman quarterback, a true freshman coming in and playing in college, you're going to have to really tweak around keeping things minimalized for them, put them in a situation to succeed, to build growth and confidence. I think there's a lot of different ways that you can do that. If I were to take a first-round quarterback and expect him to be the guy, there would be a very set plan in place of what I'm putting around him to make sure that he succeeds.
Real quick, do you think so many quarterbacks go in the portal now?
Yeah.
I know you brought in a high school kid, but is there an acceptance in your mind that you'll probably look at a portal quarterback every year?
I wouldn't say that. I'm going to look at what we need every year, and if Anthony would have stayed, we wouldn't have taken one out of the portal this year. So he ended up going, so we kind of replaced him. So it's more that way. You're kind of, it's all going to be very need-based for where you're at the transfer portal, especially at the quarterback position. But I that's going to be such a year-to-year deal.
Sorry, a couple more.
Yeah.
With the quarterback out of the portal, how many did you take a look at, and why did you think Jackson Arnold's the guy that, hey, you know what, I can fix him, take him to the next level?
Well, he's a guy we were very interested in last year. He went to the portal last year. Obviously, he financially was a little above our level last year going to the SEC. But he's a guy we studied a bunch last year, thought his skill set really fits. You're looking at him, what he has, highly he's the Gatorade National Player of the Year coming out of high school, obviously has a great skill set, has played games. I remember watching him as a freshman at Oklahoma, and watching, he would come in some like running packages of the physicalness that he runs the ball with, the toughness he runs the ball with. Then you watch how he throws it. Very accurate. The ball comes out of his hand, tight spiral, really good passer. Then look at his career and say, okay, so what's happened? He was kind of the next guy at Oklahoma, loses coordinator midway through the season. The season gets derailed a little bit. They're trying to find a spark, make a change. He walks out the door, and that's today's world. He goes to Auburn, and they're trying to, same thing. They fire the head coach. Well, there's people on the staff at Auburn like, hey, let's try something new and try a new spark, to see if we can, get it. I'm sure everybody there is trying to keep their job or try to become the next head coach. Let's try a new spark. So he's been in kind of two really tough situations that hasn't shown really, I think, the type of player he can be. And, you know, you've seen the flashes of it, but not the stability of the type of player he can be. And that's what excites me about it. Of my job is to make sure that he has that stability, that learning curve, and is put in a situation to do what he does well to go maximize his ability and be the player everyone expected him to be coming out of high school.
You mentioned the economics of the portal. It sounds like you did a good job raising a bunch of money, and the school did for NIL this year. How did it feel this year budget-wise going into the portal? Could you compete? Were you frustrated?
No, I don't want to say frustrated. I mean, we have a long way to go still in that, within funding, within our growth, keeping up with some people. I think there's a good you're starting to get an understanding. I think we're very competitive at our level. We're very competitive within our conference. We're already very competitive in the group against group of 6 teams coming out there. I think for us to continue to grow, we want to not just be competitive in that group. We want to be competitive above that group, and you know, on the economic side of things. But you got a good feel. I'm starting to get a better feel of where the numbers are. What's real? I know what's reported. I think there's a big difference between what's reported and what's real that's out there. Filing our thing. Lee Davis does an amazing job for us of putting the roster together. You know, I mean, we're evaluating the players, trying to recruit them. She's the one that's got to put the contracts and everything together and put the roster together. And I think, you know, I mean, if you look at I think she put a great roster together for the coaches last year. You know, I look at what we have this year. I think she's done another amazing job of putting the roster together again this year for us. So, you know, we want to keep doing it. We're not going to slow down with the growth, the development, with where we want to grow. We're in a city, right? I mean, I don't know. I quote my inner Kenny Dillingham, right? I mean, we're in a city where there's a bunch of people that could come right at, what did they say, a $20 million check, right? I'll call Kenny. There's a bunch of people in this city that could do it like that. You know that, and it's, you know, do they believe in the city? Do they believe in the program? Do they believe in the university here? The more support we get from those people, and the more people we get support from, the more we're going to be able to build the university, the more we're going to be able to win, the more we're going to have pride in the city of Las Vegas and our homegrown teams that I think is really special. So we're going to continue to drive and push that forward.
Last one. What did you learn from last year in terms of doling out NIL money and kind of being careful about motivation? Like, you know, once some kids get the money and they're still driven, how do you make sure you get the right kids?
Well, you know, hopefully I always look at guys and say if it's about money, the first thing I'll tell them, if it's about money, don't even visit us. You know, I want guys that playing has to be your most important thing. You know, and we try to weed that out through there with the guys. We try to do as much as we can to help our guys out. You know, I mean, we're not paying people any life-changing money in our program right now. So, you know, it's about their growth, their development on the field, off the field. All the things the city of Las Vegas has to offer are amazing. And I think, you know, one of the things that guys are going to start seeing is, you know, we're at a unique place in the NIL world where there's a lot of legitimate NIL, not the fake NIL in this city. You know, where, I mean, you're coming in. I mean, Jet Thomas, people know who Jet Thomas is in the city of Las Vegas. I mean, he's got a brand name about himself. And so as guys continue within our program, I think guys are realizing that and what the opportunities are here for them, the opportunities for him to stay. I think one of the big reasons he stayed was that legacy he can have here in the city of Las Vegas, and what that can do both short and long term for him. So I think that's a big part. But I think I think we're much more comfortable with where we're at, how we're budgeting our roster, where we're putting it together, and what our needs are. You know, of saying, hey, you know, there's guys that, hey, coach, I need this to come there. Say, okay, well then you're not going to come here. Or I need this to stay. Well, then you're not going to stay. You know, this is where we're at. This is what we're doing. And, you know, we're going to find the guys that want to be here.
Yeah.
NIL question since we're on.
Yeah.
What percentage of players get paid to come in? Can you say?
For us,
Is it 50-50? Is it 25?
I find a way, and I mean, there's obviously going to be different extremes. I try to find a way to get everybody something. You know, a lot of schools don't do that, and I mean, I don't know anybody on at our level of budget probably does it. But you know what? Everybody's working their tail off on the field. So, I mean, obviously there's much different levels, but we try to find a way that everybody on our team gets something in NIL. Oh, you guys want to know about spring schedule? Well, you could hand this to him. Let's see. We'll be starting practice on March the 26th, followed by we'll practice. You know, we've tweaked it a little bit. I've gone away from just my Jimmy Buffett schedule. Any parrot heads in here? You're a parrot head? What's the Jimmy Buffett schedule then? Because there's a live album named on it for his concerts. Okay, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays.
It's not Jimmy Buffett. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. Who's that?
That is. It's Jimmy Buffett and what's his name? 5 o'clock somewhere is Jimmy Buffett and holy mind blank. Where's Wixie? No, so but generally speaking, we kind of we don't practice consecutive days very often, except you'll see when we have some scrimmages on Fridays. A lot of times we've gone practice Tuesday, Thursday, a scrimmage on Saturday. We're doing some Tuesday, Thursday scrimmage Friday. That'll be a little bit later in the day instead of we'll have morning practices in the spring, but the scrimmages can be a little bit later. Just giving guys some opportunities to have some weekends off. And then the spring game will be Saturday, April 25th. There it is. I knew. I'm like total mind blank right there. Like, how do you miss that, Alan Jackson? But not that I'm not an Alan Jackson fan, but I'm a huge Jimmy Buffett. No, I mean, come on now. I mean, it's April 25th. Is that WrestleMania? Last year we had an AC/DC issue, right? You know, there's pluses and minuses for us, right? Pluses, we have one of the best college stadiums in the entire country. Minus, we have one of the best stadiums in the country, so they have quite a bit of events. What's going on April 25th? There's some big concert coming to town. April 25th. I just saw something driving by it the other day. I think WrestleMania is out.
It's earlier in April.
Yeah, but April 25th, there's some big shit. Who? Morgan Wallen? Maybe we have a Morgan Wallen problem this year. I'm pretty friendly. We share, right? I mean, everybody wants to see Morgan Wallen. It's only a spring game, right? And we moved a pretty exciting game for the fight last year. That was kind of cool, and it ended up being a really exciting game that we moved. So excited to kick it off. We got week 0 again this year. One of the first kickoff games playing Memphis. I think obviously be one of the premier games that weekend or one of the premier early games in college football. I think, you know, when you look at both programs over the last several years and the expectations of being that team to get a playoff bid, probably, you know, I haven't checked every one of them. I imagine it'll be one of the best group of 6 games of the whole season, or matchups, one of the most anticipated matchups of the whole season. So pretty huge to get that week 0 at home. Should be a big game to kick the season off. When does the Mount West schedule come out?
End of this month.
Nice. So we'll figure that part of it out when we get that. So,
Thank you.
everybody good? Good to see y'all. Yeah, like today's, remember like the old days on today? Well, one, you're like,